Hey guys, so I'm going to be doing a list of the top 5 Pixar sequels that definitely need to happen. But before I get to that list, we unfortunately need to talk about the Pixar sequels that shouldn't happen. Sequels that just don't even think about it. So, if you want these sequels to happen, that is totally fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. Please respect mine and I'll respect yours. So, anyway, let's get into the countdown. Starting off the list, Brave 2. Now, I absolutely hated the first Brave. It was mean-spirited, and it didn't feel Pixar-y. The film that came out that year, Wreck-It Ralph, felt more like a Pixar movie than Brave did. It feels more like a Disney movie. Not only that, but all the characters are absolutely hateable. Merida is kind of a selfish brat. Queen Eleanor is kind of a bitch. Sorry for the language. And King Fergus is just a big idiot. The animation is fine, but its mean-spirited tone is far too unbearable to watch, and a sequel to this is just unnecessary. It's Pixar's worst movie in my opinion, and it should just be left alone. Another Pixar sequel that shouldn't happen is Coco 2. Now, I don't have anything against the original Coco. I think it's a fine animated flick, but the reason why the sequel shouldn't happen is because everything has already been resolved. There's nowhere else for the characters to go or the story. Everything kind of wraps up perfectly at the end of the first Coco. Miguel can now play his guitar and perform music in front of a large audience. He's now accepted by his family. Hector can finally visit with Miguel and his family and is reunited with Coco. And Mama Imelda has forgiven Hector for what he did 8 years ago. There's nowhere else for the story to go. There's no new arcs. There's no new development for the characters. There's everything that should be done in Coco has already been done. So Pixar should just leave this alone. Plus, it's kind of too early to declare that there should be a sequel to this film, because it literally just came out a few years ago. Anyway, let's continue on. Another Pixar sequel that definitely shouldn't happen is The Good Dinosaur 2. Now, I'm one of the few that actually really enjoys the original Good Dinosaur. It's not Pixar's best, but it's not the worst either. The animation is beautiful, and even though it's kind of a lackluster story and nowhere near Pixar's standards of good storytelling, it's still a fun animated flick. It doesn't deserve all the hate it gets. But this shouldn't get a sequel because it's really unnecessary. We don't really need to see these characters again. We don't need to see this world again. Just like Coco, everything has already been done. And it's just unnecessary. It's just another load for Pixar that doesn't need to happen. But there's really not much to say about that. Anyway, moving on. Now, before I get on to my number 1 pick, I have an honorable mention. Cars 4. This doesn't need to happen, but if it does happen, I'm perfectly fine with it. I would kind of like to see one more installment in this franchise. I am quite a big fan of this franchise. And I think Cars 3 is actually underrated in the library of Pixar movies. You can disagree with me if you want. This is a film that doesn't necessarily need to happen, but if they decide to do it, I'm perfectly fine with it. I won't be ranting on YouTube like many other people do when a sequel to a film that they don't want is announced. So I'm not going to be one of those haters if they decide to make a Cars 4. It doesn't necessarily need to happen, but you know what? I'm perfectly fine with it. So anyway, my number 1 pick for the Pixar sequel that definitely never needs to happen is Toy Story 5. I did a video a while ago on this subject, but I would literally be angry at Pixar if they decided to make Toy Story 5. I didn't hate Toy Story 4. I love Toy Story 4. I think that was the perfect way to end the franchise. And I actually wanted a Toy Story 4, and it was sad at the risk that maybe there wasn't going to be a Toy Story 4. I wasn't one of those haters that was hating on Toy Story 4 like many others. A lot of people wanted it to they wanted Pixar to leave Toy Story alone because they thought Toy Story 3 was the perfect ending to the franchise. And I kind of agree with them, but, you know, I'm really glad they decided to make Toy Story 4. But a Toy Story 5 is way too much. Toy Story 5 just doesn't need to happen. All the characters' arcs have been completed. There's nowhere else for the story to go. There's no new development for Woody. You don't need to go back to this world at all. This world's done. Everything that could be done with Toy Story has been done. It's all been completed. There are no new places for the characters to go. There's no character that needs development. And honestly, guys, if they decided to make a Toy Story 5, then it's obvious that it's just because it's a cash cow and the last two Toy Story movies made $1 billion. Toy Story does not need to become one of those franchises that only exist for the money, like Ice Age, Michael Bay's Transformers, and the Terminator franchise. Because when you have a series that is as good as Toy Story, that is good every time, there's never been a mediocre or bad Toy Story film, you need to leave it alone. You need to keep it holy, okay? Maybe that's too far a statement. I'm going to say brilliant. I'm going to say brilliant. When you have a series as brilliant as Toy Story, you don't trash it with a sequel that is unnecessary like Toy Story 5. To me, 4 is the limit that you need to stay at. There shouldn't be a 5th movie unless it's based off a book or it necessarily calls for it. So yeah, leave Toy Story alone. Toy Story is fine as it is. We don't need Toy Story 5. And I'll tell you guys, if they decide to make Toy Story 5 instead of A Bug's Life 2, I'm going to be really mad. Maybe not mad, but just disappointed. So anyway, guys, what do you think? Are these sequels the sequels that absolutely don't need to happen at Pixar? Or do you want them? You might be sad if they don't happen. Honestly, share your opinion down in the comment section. I'd like to know what you think. I'll see you guys later. Stay tuned for the Pixar sequels that definitely need to happen. I know this video was kind of messy in my speech, but I will get better at it. Every video after this, I will do my best to speak clearly. I'll see you guys later.